I have to let go, so I let her hand slip away. Remorsefully, I grasped for it again. I said I would never let go. Maybe because your hand is so warm. Maybe because I am weak. Maybe because of your warmth. Thank you. I will never let go. I can't let go. Hello, my friends. Sorry for the weird, pretentious book reading intro. There is a certain kind of anime that I think is a dead genre. And I'm really disappointed to have come to the realization that this kind of show simply isn't being made anymore. Maybe it was a product of its time. Maybe there just aren't writers or people in the anime industry who think this show can be profitable, so they don't pursue it. But what I'm talking about is a very specific kind of show that came out of the boom of the light novel era. Around when Haruhi Suzumiya just hit the scene, a bunch of different moe light novel things were coming into play, and really the state of anime was changing more into what we're seeing today. It normally stars a young moe girl who is of the kudere archetype, or the cold girl, someone who is emotionless and doesn't react to you. And as a result, the reader is supposed to have this feeling of wanting to help this girl break out of her shell, to become a full expressive person. And that's sort of where the kudere version of the moe feeling comes from. But these particular shows took that archetype and changed it by making that kudere girl into a fulcrum, a foil for some kind of idea or some kind of physical law, or some emotional aspect that people have to deal with in society as a whole. I'm talking shows like Shinigami no Ballad. Probably the most popular one is Hell Girl or Jigoku Shoujo. And then there's this other one that I remember called Shigo Fumi. Was kind of funny thinking back on it because it made its title based off of the four numbers that title could represent. See if I can remember quickly enough. Shigo Fumi, so it's 4, 5, 2, 3, and it was about this girl who delivered dead people's letters to their loved ones in the real world. And so these girls end up not being so much characters as they are the idea themselves. In Shinigami no Ballad, it's the idea of death and death's relationship to the living. But mostly how the living react to and try to understand death. And in doing so, they personify death as something very cold, very elusive, and closed off to you. And yet every episode is someone actively engaging with this girl who is death and talking to her like a real person. Then in Shigo Fumi, it was similar in that rather than talking to death, it was the dead talking to the living. And rather than being a dialogue about death, it was a dialogue about interpersonal connections, about saying things that are left unsaid, or what it means to speak honestly and openly to the people in your life. And then Jigoku Shoujo is probably the edgiest of them because it is about hatred and vengeance. It's about that question of evil. Like, how can there be horrible things? How can there be bad things? and why are they so commonplace? And so these shows were particularly formative for a young Sakura Tetris because it was anime being dialogue actively with each new episode that was coming out, because they were purposefully tackling topics that were, to a certain extent, melodramatic, but also trying to present people's ideas about them. And they would do it in extremely small ways. They wouldn't really be presenting arguments. They just wanted to get the idea out there and put it in an envelope that would make you sympathize with it, such that when you left the show, when you kept going throughout the day, you would spend some time thinking about it. But it never really concluded on any of the ideas. It just was a dialogue. It was without conclusion. And to this day, I still think about those topics and rattle them around in my head. So with the newest season of Jigoku Shoujo, I'm sort of having a nostalgic feeling for those times, for those kind of shows, and trying to remember what it was like engaging with those ideas before I had any formal philosophical training. Nowadays, the light novel genre of anime, or at least the approach to making anime, is largely and fairly considered the most garbage version of anime that can exist, and it's the majority of what we normally see. They're typically cheap to make, they're formulaic, people are used to them. You just turn the show on and you like it and you're done, and then you stop thinking about it. And so the term light novel has become synonymous with don't think, don't engage with the idea, don't bother, just enjoy the flashy ride, enjoy the perverted panty shots and sexist tropes, and be done with it, be happy. And in all honesty, it's kind of disappointing, because when I came into the anime community, when I first started being a fan, light novels and the anime that were being based off of them was still a budding industry. It was still new, it was still experimental, and as a result, a lot of really fascinating short form stories came out of it. It wasn't about telling some grand narrative, it wasn't really all that significant, but it was personal, it was individual. And now it's mostly about being easy, about being bland, but with a bright coat of paint. It's like buying a bachelor's apartment, which looks good when they're showing it, but obviously it only looks good because they literally changed nothing and put another coat of paint on it. And so it's the same story. Whereas an episodic kind of light novel like this can't afford itself to be the same story. It seems the same. It has definitely traceable beats, sort of story points that it hits every time, but it's because of these points being predictable and hitting so many different kinds of characters that the show becomes interesting. I think at this point I'm probably just going to start rambling, so I'll try to close up some final thought on this. I think mainly what I'm trying to say is that I'm glad that Jigoku Shoujo has another season, because there is just the smallest chance... Okay. Power outage. Almost. There's just the smallest chance that this kind of show will inspire someone who is watching anime now, or making anime now, and saying, oh yeah, we used to do that, we can do that again, let's try doing that again. And so that part of me really hopes that this season of Jigoku Shoujo is successful, is popular, even though I know that it's probably not going to be. And on the other hand, I wanted to sort of praise the merit of what these kind of shows were in its time, and what they were able to accomplish. They were able to accomplish being a dialogue about meaningful subjects, trying to engage with watchers in a philosophical way, and oftentimes succeeding in that for those who chose to accept the format, to accept the presentation, knowing that ultimately it wasn't really going to go anywhere. Ultimately, I think that's what the light novel anime adaptation could have been. It was the virtue that the light novel format was trying to reach at, because it was so small and so simple. That's what a light novel is supposed to be, a small and simple read. But using that simplicity to get at and encourage far more complicated dialogues than what the work itself actually engaged with. It's something that I think the anime industry has lost. Like I said, I think the genre has died. And it's my sincere hope that it comes back. But in the meantime, I'm still here, looking for all those same meanings in all of the different anime or video games that come at me, no matter what format they come in. And I think to a large extent, I can thank those early light novel episodic adaptations that helped me realize that that was something that could be done, that there was meaning to pull out even from the simplest little thing. Well, I'm going to stop talking about it now. I've talked long enough, and I think I've said my piece. I'm happy that you joined me, and I apologize for the lower production, just talking head version of this episode. I recently got hired for a new job this week. I'm starting training today. Not today that you're watching, but today of which I'm existing in the past. And because of that, I didn't have any time to really throw anything together the way I normally do. And I need to get better about that. I need to be more punctual. Luckily, I haven't missed too many weeks. I think I've missed 2, maybe 3 Saturdays this entire year. But I'm going strong and I gotta keep it up. So thank you so much for joining me, everyone. If there's anything you'd like to say about maybe a kind of show that you think doesn't exist anymore, something that the industry has lost and you want to see come back, definitely let me know in the comments below. If you did enjoy this, or you enjoy anything else that I've made for the channel, please share it around with your friends. I don't pay anyone to advertise the channel for me, so the only way I can grow is with your help. And, as always, stay true.
いっぺん死んでみる